Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Posner, and I'm a yoga therapist. And like many somatic practitioners these days, my work is kind of founded in nervous system regulation. But the message that I really like to get across is that while nervous system regulation is the place we start, because we can't grow, we can't heal, we can't do all the things if we're dysregulated. Once we get regulated, once we figure out how our nervous system works, and what helps us to get more grounded, more centered, then we have the space to build capacity. So really what I'm doing is building that window of tolerance so that we can take in more health, more love, more joy, more energy, more all the things. And we have to start by figuring out how to calm things down when we get overwhelmed, because we will. We live in a very stressful society and we will get overwhelmed. But if we can fairly quickly get ourselves back to baseline, back into that rest and digest parasympathetic response, then we can build that window of tolerance so we can do new things, so we can challenge ourselves, so we can really enjoy life. So I have a 5-pillar framework that begins with nervous system regulation, and that is where we start today. I want to offer a practice that can help you build that capacity. This is a practice that you can do when you're feeling overwhelmed. It's also a practice that you can do when you're not. So the good thing about mindfulness practices, practiced when you are not overwhelmed, is that your brain becomes familiar with them and your brain loves what is familiar. The more familiar you are with a practice, the easier it is to use and access that tool when you are feeling overwhelmed. So my recommendation is to see if you can give yourself 2 to 10 minutes every day to work with this practice, and then see if you can grab hold of that practice in those moments when you're starting to feel yourself getting agitated or checked out, right? Sometimes when we're overwhelmed, we move into that fight, flee kind of reactionary response. And sometimes we feel super overwhelmed and we really just check out. We move into more of that freeze response or that numbing response. Either way, whichever direction you tend to move into, you want to get better and better at noticing when you're shifting in those directions and then coming back to these practices to help bring you back to baseline. So you can do this practice in any shape you like. If you're seated, you can stay where you are. You are welcome to lay down. The only thing I would recommend is that you're not doing this practice if you are driving. Okay, so give yourself a minute. See if you can get 10% more comfortable. Maybe you need a little roll of the shoulders or a little movement of the neck. Just take a moment to kind of settle and notice if there's anything your body needs to get a little more comfortable. So once you feel settled, you're just going to start paying attention to your breath. You don't have to do anything particular. To begin, you're just noticing the way you're breathing. I'll give you a couple of things to notice. Start by noticing if your mouth is open or closed. If your nose isn't stuffy, close your mouth. Breathing through the nose is just one of many ways to shift into that parasympathetic or rest and digest response. So start with a nose breathe. And then notice any sensations of breathing. So you might feel air moving in and out of the nose or the mouth if the mouth is open. You might feel some movement in the belly or the chest, depending on what expands and what contracts. Or notice the sensations in the torso. And as you're noticing those sensations, notice if your belly or low sides get bigger as you inhale or smaller. Notice if the breath is coming more fully or the expansion feels more like it's in the belly or the chest. If you're taking a diaphragmatic breath, you will feel some expansion in the belly, and that's what you want. Again, diaphragmatic breathing is a way to turn on that relaxation response and settle your nervous system. So as you inhale, see if you can find some movement in the low belly or the low sides or the low back. It's okay if there's some movement in the chest too, as long as you're also feeling that a little lower down. Sometimes we reverse breathe. We suck our stomach in on the inhale and puff it out on the exhale. So we want to reverse that if that's what's happening. Expansion as breath comes in, contraction as breath moves out. And then you want to notice the length of the inhale, the length of the exhale, whether maybe there's a pause at the top of the breath in or the bottom of the breath out. And if what you notice is the inhale is longer than the exhale, see if you can start to lengthen the exhale. When we're stressed out, taking a longer exhale is helpful, at least as long as the inhale, but it can get longer if you like. Again, that's just another way to turn on that parasympathetic response and get regulated. So as you breathe, you're paying attention to three things: sensation of breathing and whether the belly is expanding on the inhale and contracting on the exhale. You're noticing that the breath is, if possible, moving in and out of the nose. And you're noticing the length, referencing a longer exhale. Give yourself just about 5 more breath rounds to feel that. Now, sometimes when we're asked to pay attention to breath, it can actually raise our anxiety. That happens with some people because we're being asked to breathe in a particular way. We maybe are already super stressed out, and breathing like that feels inaccessible. And then that can raise our stress level and our anxiety level. So if that happened, or if that happens in the future, know that there are lots of things you can pay attention to besides breath. We are going to move into sensations, which is sometimes a more comfortable way to settle things down. Paying attention to the sensations in your body also helps to relax and regulate your nervous system. So see if you can find a place in your body that feels comfortable, maybe even pleasant. It can be anywhere: palms of the hands, soles of the feet. Let yourself go wherever you can feel the sense of safety or comfort in your body. And when you get there, simply pay attention to the sensations. So maybe you can feel the temperature of the air if your skin is exposed, or the texture of your clothing. Maybe there's a tingly sensation. Just notice whatever there is to notice about this particular place in your body. And if you can, imagine that your awareness is dropped right down to that level. So it's not like you're observing your hand from head level. Imagine that your awareness is right in the center of your hand, and you're just noticing what it feels like. And when your mind wanders, or you kind of start to tell a story about what you're noticing, see if you can just simply come back to experiencing the sensation. And what we're doing is offering our attention an object, just like we did with the breath. Whether it's the breath or a sensation, you have something to pay attention to. And so it moves you out of your thinking mind and into your physical body, which in general helps us to get more regulated, to feel more grounded. So notice which felt more accessible or more helpful. Notice the experience of paying attention to breath, the experience of paying attention to a sensation, and which one felt better. And that might actually change. Sometimes one might feel more accessible than another. Either way, see if this week you can commit to just 2 to 10 minutes a day, paying attention to the breath or a sensation or two in your body, or both, See if that creates a little bit more kind of calming or grounding in your system. And if you have a moment where you're feeling yourself moving into either that kind of fight, flight, intense reactionary place, or freeze, more kind of numbed out, checked out kind of place, see if you can feel yourself moving in those directions, and then reach for one of those practices. See if that helps to keep you at baseline or bring you back. Again, I'm Rachel, and if you'd like to learn more about my 5-pillar framework, you can join me in the next video where I will talk about self-compassion. See you next time.